Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. So this is part 3 of my river scene that I'm working on. I was able to get a lot accomplished during the Thanksgiving break, especially over the weekend. And so I am just catching you up on what I've done. So we'll start with the ballasting. I started ballasting from this point all the way through on both mains, including this little section here. And then continuing onto here, and from like around here somewhere, I had already ballasted all this, so I just kind of tied it in. So this is nice because I'm all the way to the end of the gate with ballast, so that gives nice continuation all the way through. And one thing about the ballasting, when I installed the sensors for these gates that you see here, well, they're not gates, they're just lights, crossing signals. I had to put them in the track, so they're kind of like buried between the ties. I'll show you here since I have one free here. So right now it's really hard to detect them because what I did is I masked them with clear plastic. So in other words, there's two infrared detectors there. One's a receiver and the other one is what emits the light. And the emitting light signal is the one that's a little bit more obvious to see because it's yellow. And the receiver is black, so it kind of hides a little bit better. But basically what I did is I took some, it's like the clear plastic that is used for overhead projectors, like this stuff. And I just cut, you can see a little, piece for each track, for each sensor. And then once I had the right fit, I inserted them right over the two sensors. I'm going to try to get close so you can see. So there's one there and there's one right there. And you can see there's ballast over them right now, but the ballast was done after the fact. In other words, I ballasted everything without doing those two little spaces. And then what I did is I cemented everything in, went back, and then I added just a little ballast on top. Now, right now, it's actually not glued in for those two spaces that I pointed out. So right now, it's just kind of floating there in case I needed to, move them out of the way or something. But it's really hard to see, but they're there. And so, anyways, I had to do that separately. Because after testing, what I realized is you don't need a lot of light coming through. You just need just a little bit. So even after throwing ballast on top of it, it's still, the light gets through anyway. You just can't cover it completely. Now I am having a little trouble with this guy here. I think it's just because of the way I placed the actual sensors in there. It's just I didn't do it quite ideally. So, anyways, moving on. So the other thing that I did was I said I was going to go with a waterfall type scene. Well, before we get to that, I covered a lot of ground here with grass. So I did all this. I'm not sure if I did this over the weekend or if I did it on my last video, but I covered all this. I did add this corner, which is a photo backdrop from one of my other backdrops, just a piece that was left over. So I'll probably round it off here a little bit and then just cover all the trees here to kind of blend it in. But that takes care of that problem that I was having in the corner because it's so close to the track that I couldn't really put a tree in there without interference. So I did that. I covered, I think this was already covered, but all this and all of this was not, I think. So now, anyways, the point is that all of this section is now covered with some kind of base for the grass and the sand and dirt and rocks and things like that. So, I am going to add a lot of other things like static grass and, like shrubs and little bushes and things like that and whatever wild grass and, other rocks and things. So this is just to create a base for the whole thing. But all of this, including old scenery here, is all going to get a lot of static grass attached to it. So anyways, going back to this, the plan was to now create a waterfall, so I went ahead and did that. And what I did was I took 3 pieces of foam, I stacked them, and then I took this it's like a pumice kind of material. Let me see if I can get it. Yeah, it's a coarse pumice gel by Golden, which I got turned on to these products from Boomer Dioramas. He does awesome work. I've always mentioned him, but this Golden stuff is really cool. It's really good stuff. I'm not very good at using them yet, but that actually worked out nicely because it created a nice rough base for the soon-to-be waterfall there. So then what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to add rock molds, kind of like that, but smaller. So I've already poured it into this is my casting, piece here, my mold. And so I'm just waiting for it to really dry hard before I start peeling it off. But basically, it's almost there. So you just peel this off, and the rock's obviously on the other side. So I'm going to break that all apart just to get some pieces. And I'm going to add them back there. I'm also going to add one in the back against the wood there. So that whole thing is going to be one big rock mold. And then the other one's going to go up against the flat parts of the waterfall. And obviously I will add some kind of water effects with some paint and stuff to make it look like water coming down, and the waterfall stuff, which we'll get to later on. I also added a little platform up there with some more hard, stuff, hardboard. And I'm going to just kind of create a little bit more of a hill back there. So I needed something to lay it on, so that's why I did that. And I'll probably do a little more here as well. I haven't decided yet. And then the backdrop, I'm still debating whether it's going to be a photo backdrop or just a bunch of like bushes or bush material plastered onto a piece of something, either more hardboard or something back there to make it look like mountains. So then I can put trees in front of it and make it look like it's like very deep woods there. Or a combination of both. I might do a little bit of that and then also a photo backdrop behind that to make it look like it's further out. I did add a little more rock and stuff like that, which I still have to lighten up with the powder. It still looks too black to me. All this is going to get lightened with powder. But this is all pretty much what I call the base level, where now I can start really adding all the shrubs and bushes and stuff. And then once I get all of this locked in as far as like what I want the trees to look like and anything that's going to create debris, once I get all that figured out, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to vacuum the riverbed carefully, because you don't want to scrape this, it'll just turn white. And then add the whatever water material I end up using. Most likely it'll be the Envirotex Light and then the ripples on top, just to show a little more depth with all the stuff that I've created here. But I'm very happy with how this is all looking. I got a little carried away and continued the grass coverage over here. So it's nice to see, grass on both sides of this spur. And obviously this is all going to be overgrown. And I added some rocks here as well. Give it a little detail. I also started getting my guardrails figured out. So these guardrails are going to sit basically in this entire area the way you see it there. But, I still have to weather it a little more. But I wanted those guardrails to look like very rusty and old. So that's why I went with I just sprayed it with a dark brown first, matte dark brown, and then I'll go back and hit it with some kind of highlights. The only reason I haven't installed those yet is because I want to add a lot of overgrown weeds and tall grass and stuff like that, and then I'll be able to go back and then add pins to some of the supports, and then this way I just push them into the foam there that's underneath, and it'll stay put. The hardest thing is going to be basically this curve here, but besides that it's just a straight line, so that should be easy. There should be no resistance working against me. So I got a little carried away there. I still have to add a little more stuff here, and I will have guardrails on this side also. because it doesn't make sense that it would just be on one side of the tracks, especially when you're that close to the track. So that's what I'm going with there, but that's got nothing to do with the river. I just got carried away. Future plans. I want this area to be very, very interesting looking for photographing. So what I've realized is that when I'm taking pictures, I have to get very close, like this, in order to get the entire image to look like water. So I think what I'd like to do is be able to shoot pictures from like back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an extension of the water that's going to come out pretty far. I just didn't want to have it permanent because then I can't access the stuff up here. So what I'm going to do is create like an insert where I can just push up or push in a piece of 2-inch, foam board where it's light, and then have some kind of cleats on the side that come out and support it from either end. It's just going to be basically an extension of the water. Nothing heavy on top, just water. And that'll give me the opportunity to take, pictures from further away and still make it look like a big water scene rather than this, like I said, where I got to get really close to get any kind of water in the image, or shoot very high like this. I don't want to have to do everything like that. So in other words, ideally, so I can get the entire scene, I'd have to go all the way back here, which requires another, like 2 feet of water here. But it doesn't matter because what I'm going to do is I'm going to round it off like this so that I can still walk through here. And if I'm having a session, it's not going to completely consume this area. And then if there's anything to do up there, it's easier to just slide off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap the water with the same material. I've done this before. This actually works out nicely. The same overhead projector material. So once I get everything aligned with the foam board here and the water, like the Envirotex, then I'm going to put this on top, obviously, a clear version of that, and it's going to just overlap a little bit. And since it's overlapping that way, you're not going to see the seam unless you take a picture from the opposite side. And since everything's going to be so rough looking, meaning there's going to be waves everywhere and stuff like that, even if there's a little lift or something on the overlapping area, you won't even notice it because, it'll kind of get masked through that. Especially if you're taking photos from here, you will definitely not see it, right? Maybe if you take it like this, which is not going to be very often, you'll see like the connection here. But what I didn't want to do is just basically butt it up and just have like a clean line, because that you'll see like a gap all the way through. So that's how I mask that. I just kind of overlap. And then what I'm probably going to do is just try to mimic, you see these flat spots here? I'll probably mimic that kind of stuff with the plastic and just, use that as like a cleat or like some kind of, some kind of connection point between the extension and the original water here. So that's in the future, but I got to get the scene done first before I even worry about that. All right, so that's going to be it for today. I hope I covered everything. I think I did. It's not a lot, but it's very time consuming. So that's why I was able to, that's why I did what I did during the Thanksgiving break. So anyways, I'll see you at the next video. Thanks for watching.